Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today we're joined by Chandler Bolt, who is the author of a brand new book called Published. He's also the CEO of Self-Publishing School, which is, as you can imagine, an entire ecosystem surrounding publishing a book. Now, this is a really relevant topic for website owners and for business owners. And Chandler does a really great job through the podcast of kind of explaining all the reasons why you should publish a book. We talk through the authority that it brings you. We talk through the monetization efforts that it provides. We talk through the lead generation efforts that it provides. And Chandler does a great job of connecting the dots and talking about how a book is actually not kind of the end goal, but a book opens up the doors to so many other channels, so many other ways to monetize, and so many other ways to grow your authority. So for website owners and content creators, we oftentimes get stuck at producing content and then monetizing it with some easy methodologies like affiliate and direct ads. But adding a book on is not that difficult because you've already created a lot of the content and you already have a lot of the processes in place. So Chandler joins us and just kind of unpacks what it would look like for a content creator and even just for a business owner to make a book and produce it and have it go live. He walks through the 8 different milestones that he has found to be important for publishing a book. We talk about whether to charge for the book, how much to charge for the book, whether to make it for free and use it as lead gen, and kind of the different reasons why you would do each. We also talk about where to publish it. Should you do it on Amazon through the KDP Kindle program, or should you self-host that and sell it through your own website? And then Chandler also has a great opportunity for people to grab his published book, his book called Published, for free. So you'll want to stay tuned to the end to hear how you might be able to get a free copy of that book. So all in all, I think it's a really good episode for everyone to listen to, just to make sure that you're not leaving a good opportunity on the table. Whether you're a website creator, a content creator, or even just a business owner, there's a lot of opportunities in the publishing world today. And Chandler really does a great job of explaining that to us here. So enjoy. All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today we're joined by Chandler Bolt. Welcome on board, Chandler.
Jared, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Now, you've been on the podcast before, but it was quite a while ago, and it was a Spencer. So this will be a good reboot. A lot's happened since then, anyways. Let me just give everyone a little quick cliff notes, but you could add a lot more to it and give us maybe a catch up on your backstory. So you're with Self-Publishing School. You're the founder and CEO, and Forbes 30 Under 30, author of 7 best-selling books, including one of the ones we're going to talk about today, Published, which just came out. You host the 7-Figure Principles podcast and the Self-Publishing School podcast. And we're going to be talking publishing today. That's probably what we'll dive deepest into. Anything you could fill in for us on the backstory there?
Self-Publishing School, we exist to help people write books and publish books to grow their income, their impact in their business if they have one. And I was just looking, the last episode was in June of 2017. Yeah. So we've published thousands of books since then. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list a few times, at Forbes 30 Under 30, like you mentioned. But then also relevant to this audience is I've learned a lot more about content marketing and SEO and how that fits in with publishing books, selling books. We've acquired a few sites and so we've now have selfpublishing.com, The Right Life, makealivinwriting.com, in addition to selfpublishingschool.com and a bunch of stuff like that. So worlds are colliding and there's a lot that's been learned and a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm sure we'll weave between the two topics, but we could talk about how you've grown Self-Publishing School as an executive and as a founder and as somebody just growing a website. And we could also talk about all the value that Self-Publishing School as a service can provide to website owners and content creators in terms of publishing themselves. So we'll weave in between and back and forth. When did you start Self-Publishing School? Like, when did all this begin for you?
Yeah, so Self-Publishing School launched in February of 2015. So we're going on 7. Yeah, I guess actually right at 7 years. We published about 6,000 books. And we've learned and grown a lot since then.
And I was, perusing around on the site. You guys have, a really all-inclusive guide on how to write a book and whatnot. Just so everyone kind of gets a little bit better of an understanding, is self-publishing school more about publishing for people that have already written, or is it really all-inclusive in helping people write a book that can actually get sold?
Yeah, I'd say probably the latter. The majority of our students have not written and published a book before. So we help them write and publish their first book. And then some people work with us that have published, but maybe it just wasn't as successful as they'd like. We're really good at the marketing and book sales side of things, as well as the using a book to grow your business. So a lot of people join to get help specifically with that. And probably as it relates to this audience too, it's like, I believe that in a lot of ways, and we've not even just I believe this, we've just seen the data to back it up, that a book or a lower ticket offer is one of the best ways to bridge from niche website, someone's coming onto my site, to now they go from viewer to paying customer, right? Or even to subscriber, if you're giving away the book for free and stuff like that. So that's kind of our sweet spot on who we help and how it fits in.
So let's talk about that. I'd say, a lot of the listeners are going to be creating websites. They're going to be perhaps a mixture, but a lot of content creators, right? Definitely have e-com people listening, SaaS folks listening, but certainly a lot of content creators using SEO to drive traffic. They get a lot of monthly visits, perhaps monetized by maybe affiliate revenue from Amazon or some private affiliate networks, and then also putting display ads, like monetizing through these ads and stuff. How much revenue would you say people are leaving on the table by not, maybe tapping better into this audience they have coming to their website every day?
Oh gosh, so much. I mean, and it really depends on your goals, right? Are you trying to anonymously run a niche site on the side, or are you trying to use this niche site to build a brand and to build a product and that sort of thing? And I look at this too, when I even look at, we've acquired some sites in the space, and when a site is monetizing strictly through ads and affiliates, it's kind of in a lot of ways the most inefficient way to monetize that traffic. Now, it's also the most passive way to monetize that traffic. So if you've got maybe a pendulum here, right, where okay, it's maybe less efficient, but it's more passive. And if that's what you're optimizing for, then that's great. But no matter which side of that spectrum you fall on, books are a great way to. I look at them as like, good news, you've already written the content, you've already created the content, but how do we go from visitor to purchaser, building a brand, like all those things? And so in the same way that I've got the self-publishing school podcast, and that can correlate directly to, the audiobook version of my new book, audio to audio, physical version to physical version, or ebook. That parlays directly off of the site itself. And now there's obviously we can go in a bunch of different directions, but you can go the Amazon route, or even some of the sites that we've acquired have really solid ebooks that they sell for $20 to $50, and they don't sell them on Amazon, but they only sell them on the site. And that is one of the main ways that they monetize, in addition to affiliate revenue. And then there's the kind of the hub and spoke. You can refer out. You're already, chances are, if you're running affiliate stuff, you're already referring out to Amazon affiliate program. So you can do the same with folks purchasing books, but then also you can kind of, that can lead into, if you're writing a book that encompasses some of the products that you recommend, then there's kind of some synergy there. Like, there's just a lot of different ways that you can skin it, depending on what your end goals are, right? Is it to grow the business that I'm running? Or is it to passively have the niche site that's monetized? And so then the kind of how I would extrapolate that out and strategize there would just be slightly different.
So let's dive down that deep hole of topics, right?
Yeah.
If I'm a site owner and I have a website that generates traffic, it's getting views, and let's say I'm looking for a bolt-on. I'm looking to continue to foster a brand and develop the traffic, but also the revenue. What would a process look like for creating a book through what you guys are doing on self-publishing school? Like, is that a process where, and I'm just going to hit you with maybe some buzzwords or buzz topics. Like, can I just take some of the content I already have on my website and roll it into an ebook? Do I need to actually be a good writer? What if I outsource all my content? Can I then use that for an ebook? Do I need to go hire somebody else to write this? So you don't have to answer all those, but these are the thoughts I'm having and going through my head as a site owner and someone who has content, but feels overwhelmed by the idea of publishing a book.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few routes that I would go with this. So as Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind, right? So I'm going to assume for a second that your goal is to grow the business that you're running and monetize the traffic that you have. And so that first step is creating a product that you can sell where you get 100% of the royalties, right, off of that, or 100% of the royalties that come to you from it. So kind of how I would look at this is, what are your top blog posts and top traffic sites? What are the pain points that if you're already selling a product? I mean, that's the easiest fit. If you're already selling a product of your own, what are the pain points? The highest, what we would call high buyer intent content. So for us at Self-Publishing School, if someone is searching how to write a book, how to publish a book, best book writing software, like those are highly correlated to them signing up for Self-Publishing School, right? And so what's the equivalent of that for your brand and for your site? And you know this, Jared, like you might have some posts on your site that get a ton of traffic, but they're just not buyer intent. Right. So that can be a kind of a red herring. For us, that's writing prompts is one of them, right? Because writing prompts, that could be, I've got to write we get a lot of kids that are writing papers and so then they're not financially qualified, nor do they even want to write a book. And so that can kind of just muddy up. What's that?
They just want to get their paper done.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So they're searching writing prompts. And so, or how to write a short story or things like that. And so I look at that and I would blend like, okay, where's the buyer intent? Where's the traffic that I already have around content that I've already created? And that's where it would plug in with our process. And that's where folks would, could, if they work with us, would book a call with our team, talk to a coach, say, all right, what's the 4 P's of a high converting offer? The person that I'm writing to, the pain that they have, that they know that they have, and the promise that I can make with this book. And then there's the price, right? But so the price is pretty straightforward for books, but so person, pain, promise, and then that gets really specific. And then if you have a team of writers already, I mean, you've got someone on staff that could write the draft of your book, or you can go through some of the process that we teach. And this is what I talk about in, chapter 5, 6, and 7 in my new book is mind mapping, outlining, and then actually writing the book. And so at a minimum, you can mind map and outline, and then use that to either write the book yourself or have one of your writers on staff write the draft of the first book.
What are your thoughts on, because there's so many different ways that we see books monetized. We see books for free as lead generation pieces, sign up for my email list and I'll send you this guide or this ebook. You certainly see it a lot on Amazon, where you see books for like $3, $5, $9.99. And then you also will commonly see, books for $20 or $30. How does one arrive at what to charge, especially when you're thinking through the book and thinking through the revenue potential of where you might want to land on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I look at is, man, there's so many different components, and I had to give broad, it depends answers. But I would say, say I've got a niche site that's best green smoothies, right? And then I want to write an ebook that's 101 best smoothie recipes or something like that, or 10 best smoothie recipes. Like one route I could take might be to give that book away for free as a lead magnet, especially if within those smoothie recipes, I'm recommending specific products, right? So I want to get as much traffic on that ebook because then that's going to refer out to, Amazon affiliate links or other affiliate links of products that I have. Right. So that might be one strategy now, but you could take that a step further and write and publish the book on Amazon. And now you've got vertical SEO, right? Which I'm sure you're familiar with, which is, okay. And I think about this is, how do I own the traffic on each vertical? So how do I make sure when someone searches write a book on Google, we show up, on YouTube, we show up on Amazon, we show up on Apple Podcasts, we show up, right? So I have a podcast episode around how to publish a book. We have a video on how to publish a book. And then my book Published, right, is
the book on how to write a book.
Exactly. But then also because, I mean, when you do vertical SEO well, best green smoothies, and I haven't searched this, but I would have a hunch that one of the results is going to be something on Amazon or some other high domain authority site, right? And so that's where you can take it a step further. And now I'm building vertical SEO on another platform, but it's a platform that I can directly monetize. And then I'm sending traffic to that, and then the jumping off point from there. And then I'll just directly correlate, just like give a very tangible example. So with my book Published, we take all of our high buyer intent traffic, goes directly to this. We promote it through the podcast. We do a bunch of things like that. But also, I want to look at like, how do I use this book to get more leads, sales, and referrals for my business? Mm-hmm. So that's the main purpose. And so we'll give it away for free in a lot of places too. We'll give away free digital copies if people show up for a webinar or show up for trainings and stuff like that. So that increases our traffic to lead ratio, our lead to appointment ratio, our show up, our close, like all the parts of our sales funnel. It is aided by the fact that we have a book. We have our free plus shipping funnel, which is one of the top performing, channels that we have. Also, what's done really well for us is just retargeting our warm traffic with a free plus shipping book offer. And so it's a way to monetize that traffic, but then also, most importantly, like get them into our ecosystem, right? People who pay attention. And so we want to, like, this is just a random example, and hopefully this is helpful for people. But one of the ads we ran back in the day, we need to bring this back, was me hanging in a tree with a copy of the book. And it's like, hey, yeah, I'm like waving in people's feed. It's on Facebook and Instagram. And hey, you're leaving me hanging. Like, you came by the site, you didn't get a copy of the book, blah, blah, blah. Just like a pattern interrupt. People grab a copy of the book, they book a call with the team at Self-Publishing School, they sign up for Self-Publishing School. So that, like, all those different ways is we kind of use the book to feed into the business and monetize our highest intent traffic.
So clearly in the book that you just published, that is not the end game. The end game is not for them buying the book. You're using that to grow a higher monetized, more profitable, more high touch aspect of your business, which is Self-Publishing School.
No doubt.
So let's expand then. So
yes,
we might have started off the interview by thinking, I have a website and let me bolt on a book for added revenue. Let's go down the road you just went down. Let's say I have a website and I want to add a book to explore and open up other business opportunities. How can I use a book to actually grow my business holistically?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jared. And I want to back up just a second to clarify, because I think everyone will know, but just to make sure, is just because the book isn't the end game doesn't mean the book sucks, right? Or like the book should suck. Like, I want to make sure that when people get this book, and this is part of the reason for doing the second edition, which is what you're seeing here. The first edition was downloaded and purchased hundreds of thousands of times, but I was like, it needs to be better and it's outdated. Mm-hmm. And so the goal with the book is you drop the mic, and whether they pay for it or get it for free, they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so then they want to take the next step. And so that almost like kind of circles back to answer your question too, is it's so good that people want to take the next step with you and with your company. And so kind of the way that I look at this is, for a lot of folks, the book can be the testing ground to see if you want to create a full-fledged product on that thing. And then if you don't, you can keep it very passive. Like, that book is just selling and it's one more thing, but it just so happens to be a product you own, not an affiliate offer that could change the terms or stop paying you or whatever else, or not, ad networks that fluctuate or whatever else. Like, it's a product that you own that is now got consistent revenue. But if you do that and you say, hey, this went really well, it resonated, now how could I build a product off of this? And so that's kind of the steps of the value ladder of, tell me how to do it or teach me how to do it, show me how to do it with me, do it for me. And so you can kind of slide up as far as you want on that value ladder. And that's where I look at the book is the instruction manual. You can parlay that into an online course, which would be the show me how to do it. you could parlay that into group coaching or some sort of coaching and done with you offer. And then you can parlay that into done for you services, right? Agency, software, whatever the thing is that you're attaching on the back end of it. So that's how I look at it. And then more specifically, how do I use a book to grow my business? Well, I look at it in three ways: is how do I use the book to get more leads, more sales, and more referrals? So more leads, these are folks who hear about me because of my book, right? So these are folks who might be browsing, they see published, and they would never know about self-publishing school, but now they've heard about me because of the book, right? Then there's people, some more sales. These are people who already know about me, but decide to do business with me because of the book. So that's kind of the nudge in that direction. And so this is what I was kind of talking about, is use a book to improve every part of the sales funnel and every part of the sales process. Improve your traffic to lead, your lead to purchase or lead to appointment, your appointment to show up, your show up to close, like all those parts of the sales funnel. And as you know, the saying is the root word of authority is author. And you can't spell the word authority without the word author. And so it boosts your perceived authority and your sales in the process. And then thirdly, I look at how do you use a book to grow referrals. And so if you have a higher ticket product or service or program or whatever it is, well, then I look at, okay, let me send 2 copies of this book to every new customer. Or give if it's brick and mortar. And so now, and it's one for them and it's one for a friend who needs help with XYZ. So a book is a new business card, and it's better than a business card, in my opinion, because you give someone a business card, they're going to throw it away within 24 hours, probably. But you give them a book, they keep it. And every time they see it, they think of you and what you do. And so it's just a way to engage people to refer to your business. And we use this beyond that. We have a short link for all of our customers that we say, hey, if you ever know anyone that's thinking about writing a book, just go to this link and put in their information and I'll ship them a copy of the book for free. And I'll tell them it came from you. And it'll help them on their journey. And then that turns into referrals, paying customers for self-publishing school, all that good stuff.
It's almost like creating a book gives you a license to give to people, to contact people, to reach out to people. You know, I mean, certainly in the website world, we talk about things like creating natural links or link bait. We talk about how to outreach to people with a unique offer. You know, these are all things that are going through my head as you're mentioning the value of a book that it could bring, specifically to a website owner.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So let's talk about brass tacks then. What does it look like to create a book? I'm in. You've convinced me. What does it look like, certainly with the tools at self-publishing school, but in general, what does it look like to kind of walk through create a book?
Yeah. So I look at it as kind of, it's really 8 milestones, right? And I know some people will be listening on audio. Some people will be watching on video, but this is page 17 in the new book. And so it's really these 8 milestones that walk you through the process. And my whole goal with creating these milestones is, as an author, it can be daunting going through the process. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a C-level English student and a college dropout with ADHD. So I kind of need things to be simple. And that's my goal is create it super simple. So the milestones are meant to say, hey, what is my very next step? And nothing else matters. Like, right, my title doesn't matter, my cover doesn't matter. And it's like, oh my gosh, SEO world, wait, hold on, the title doesn't matter. Of course the title matters, but it's not the first thing that you do. Right. And so that's what the milestones are all about. And so it starts with creating a mind map. And this is what I call the more writing method. So it's an acronym, MORE. So mind map, outline, rough draft. Right. So you mind map, then turn that into an outline, then rough draft, and then editing. And so that's the more writing method, is kind of that process. But so you move into self-editing, then professional editing, then cover design and creating your title, then formatting, then launch. So that's kind of the 8 milestones and at a glance. And obviously there's a bunch of intricacies and things to do within each one of those milestones, but that's how I break it up. And if you're looking to get started with your book, the most important thing is to get your rough draft finished. as quickly as possible, because then you're going to start to believe that this is possible. You're going to start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then the starting point, which is what I would recommend everyone do as soon as you stop listening to this or watching this, is take 15 minutes. We've got mind map templates you can use, or you could just grab a blank sheet of paper. Take 15 minutes and write out everything you can think of on the topic for your book. Most popular posts. What are the broken record conversations that you've had with prospects or customers, ideas you have, stories you have, hooks, like kind of all those things. And once you do that, you're going to realize you got a whole lot more than you thought you could write about. And it's going to make the whole rest of the process a whole lot easier. Kind of like probably a lot of people do when they're writing posts. Is mind map the post.
I was going to say, it sounds to me like the process of creating a really effective post versus just spitting out content. I think most people who have been in the content creation game for a while know that starting with an outline is always going to make for a better article and always going to make for a, and so, and kind of like you said, like you probably start with a keyword, but you probably don't title that that article until you get finished with it and really see how the post shaped up and see which directions you went and see what content became relevant. So I think it's a really good tip.
Exactly. And it's kind of like my teachers always told me to start with an outline, and I'm like, well, that's dumb. Why wouldn't I just start writing? It seems like I'm wasting a lot of time with this whole outline thing. Yeah. And then, as many people who are listening to this probably realized, you actually save so much time by doing it up front.
Yeah. So true. It's so true. and for the record, for those of you listening, we Chandler does have a nice little offer, but I'm going to save it till the end to keep you intrigued. Although I guess I could just skip ahead, but hang on. And you have a fun little offer for people at the very end here. You mentioned it earlier, and I wrote it down because I wanted to come back to it. So let's talk about the monetization of a book. And, certainly for someone not as experienced, well, having no experience really with publishing, like I do think Amazon, I think KDP, I know you can also self-publish and self-sell or self-host. Like, talk through the different monetization channels, and then just, if you could give us some insights on each of them.
Yeah. So, one of the best and most direct, this is the publishing industry has been democratized over the last few decades, really. And it used to be that the only way that you could publish was to get a book deal. And that was the only way you could get into bookstores, which bookstores were the only way that you sold books, right? Well, now it's kind of a crazy stat, but about 70% of all books sold are sold on Amazon. So, Amazon is the 1,000-pound gorilla kind of in the space. And so Amazon and specifically Kindle Direct Publishing, that's one of the best places for folks. The royalty rates are pretty strong as well. And it doesn't hurt that it also can plug in with some of the other stuff you're doing with Amazon Associates and all that good stuff. So it's pretty simple and pretty streamlined in that way. And so that's one of my biggest recommendations. If you're not just going to sell directly on your site, which the benefit of doing it on Amazon is there's hundreds of millions of customers on that platform. You can vertical SEO it. You can do all those things. Obviously you might make less per book than if you're charging, $20-$50 for like a book pack on your website or something like that. But it works really well, and you can own yet another channel that brings folks into your ecosystem.
Can you do both? Can you sell through your own shopping cart and also sell on KDP and on Amazon?
Yeah, you can. It'll change some of your royalties, like breakdowns. So you'll make less money on Amazon because they like doing the Amazon exclusive. So there's trade-offs, but you can certainly do both.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess maybe unpack a bit for people who are listening. Do you see, because I'm speaking from experience and stuff we've gone back and forth on prior to this podcast being recorded, but do you go down the direction, or do you recommend going down the direction of creating an all-inclusive, really large book? Or do you think more in terms of creating smaller micro books? Because I see both done. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, I go smaller micro or more niche books. The riches are in the niches. And rather than writing the broad book that tries to appeal to everyone, I just recommend write a specific book that solves a specific problem for a specific person. And in doing so, you're going to sell more copies, and your SEO is going to be better in the process.
Yeah. So going back to our example, instead of writing like maybe the best smoothie recipes on the planet, you write, hey, here's a book on the best smoothie recipes for bodybuilders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I am not one, obviously, but carrying on the example here, the best smoothies for after a workout, and the best smoothies for breakfast, and whatever, carry that through.
100%. I love where your head's at, and I completely agree.
So what help would someone get at self-publishing school? I mean, if I get the book published, why would I go to self-publishing school? Like, what are the differences between what you share in your book and then what self-publishing school will help you with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and this is what I recommend for people who are writing books as well, is your book it's overarching strategies, and it's the 10,000-foot view. Right. And there's a saying I love, which is give away all of your best stuff for free and people will pay you to tell it to them again. Right. And so some of it is that, but really beyond that, it's all the accountability, the resources, so when someone signed up for self-publishing school, they get paired up with a coach that works with them one-on-one. We've got tons of group coaching calls. We've got advanced curriculum, like click by click, like through everything you need to do. Like it goes in way more in depth. And all that good stuff. And then we've got exclusive discounts with cover designers, editors, formatters, you name it. So our goal is self-publishing school is to save people hundreds of hours in the process and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in the process. And then now we're rolling out here soon where we'll be, doing book covers for folks, doing format. So a bunch of the stuff that you'd have to do and pay for and work with a bunch of people kind of all under one roof. So it saves people a lot of time and money and energy in the process.
Okay. I want to transition for the last few minutes here and ask you actually about your growth on selfpublishingschool.com and kind of some of the things you've done to grow that. I mean, a lot of times what we have on the podcast here are basically business success stories, like people who took a business from starting here and got it to here. You've clearly done very well with your business and, transitioning away from you giving tips about how to publish a book and into tips for how you grew your business. I'd love to just get some insights from you on some of the strategies you used.
Yeah. One of the big things is exactly what you guys teach. I mean, it's using content in SEO, and that has been the game changer for us. When we started out, we didn't have a blog. We just had a landing page. I had a book, and we did some affiliate stuff and that sort of thing, like to get our first customers. In fact, Spencer and Niche Pursuits was one of our first supporters back in the day, and so we did that, and then we said, all right, we're relying on Facebook ads, we're relying on Google, we're relying on some of these other things. Like we need to really build content and something that is going to have a long tail and continue to bring in folks. And so we started shifting towards that. I think we started the blog in 2016, and with that, I mean, it's just continued to grow. So that's grown. Obviously, we do a bunch of partnership stuff and affiliate stuff and biz dev still. And that's actually one of our fastest growing channels right now. But one of our steadiest and most consistent growing channels has been content and SEO. And then that's further grown with other acquisitions back in 2019, maybe. I think it was, I purchased selfpublishing.com, which is a pretty big one we went on the self-publishing space. So that's kind of the best domain to have for that. And so we built that out into its own site. And we've done other acquisitions in the space with The Right Life, thebookdesigner.com, makealivingwriting.com, a bunch of other sites. And so we've kind of created a content hub where we help solve people's problems through content. And then when it's a fit, we say, hey, you should work with Self-Publishing School to write and publish your book. So that's been a big part of our growth over the years.
You talk about acquiring different sites. Were they domain names? Were they just websites that were producing content? Were they full brands? I mean, how are you evaluating that?
Yeah, great question. So some of them we bought them for the SEO and the consistent traffic, and we said, hey, this hasn't been updated as much, or we could go in and improve the site speed, update a bunch of the articles, and improve the monetization. through self-publishing school. Because like I said earlier, if it's just being monetized by affiliate traffic and ads, well, then it's one of the most inefficient ways. So if we can buy traffic that has high buyer intent to self-publishing school, well, then that will just monetize through. And as long as you're doing everything above board, disclosing, being super transparent, which we are, it doesn't feel like, oh, well, this is like a fake review site that's like really just owned by this company, right? And so there's that, but then there's other, maybe one other instance where like selfpublishing.com, that was for the domain name. They had a site, there's a long site history. The site sucked. It looked like it was 1980s, like Microsoft Paint. Like we started with 1,000 organics a month or something, maybe even less than that. And then we rebuilt the whole layout. We redid a bunch of stuff. And I mean, we even contemplated, changing to selfpublishing.com, like as the business, but we just decided not to. But, and so we have built that site up to what it is now, which somewhere between 50 to 70,000 or something like that, organic uniques a month. And so that's been a slow and steady build. And then there's been other domain acquisitions like selfpublishingschool.com. We're technically still hosted on self-publishingschool.com because that's where we started, but we purchased that and did the redirect because we knew that people were getting confused and going somewhere else. And it's just like little things like that along the journey to just help kind of put the wind at our back with our content acquisition. And then small things like the Self-Publishing School podcast, which is, Self-Publishing School podcast, but then you have the Self-Publishing School YouTube channel, which kind of exists in the content ecosystem. That's been growing through a lot of the traffic and doing vertical SEO there, connecting that with some of the stuff we're doing on our blog posts. So, just kind of this big content web of
it's definitely a web.
Yeah, of helpful tools and content and video and audio and all that so that we can meet people where they're at, help them make progress with what they're working on, and when it's a fit, lead into self-publishing school to help them write and publish a book.
Let me ask you one more question on that, because a lot of site owners who acquire brands, domains, etc., a lot of them will do like a merge, right? So they'll take the content from the new acquisition and they'll, in the correct way, move it over to their main site, do the 301s, all that kind of stuff. And you've opted, for the most part, to keep these sites existing in silo and all working together in, like you called it, like a web. I mean, I'm looking at selfpublishing.com. It's a completely new platform, or a completely different platform from self-publishing school. So why did any insights into why you chose to go that route when so many others choose a different route?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I think one we're still exploring and figuring out, because I don't know that the way we've done it is the best way to do it. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. But I would say that there's a couple, so when it makes sense, we've done some 301s, we've done some, there's when it's a lower quality site or like the aesthetic, especially, and it doesn't have a crazy amount of traffic. It's like, hey, let's 301 redirect this to a hub that fulfills the same intent of the searcher. That's a better article somewhere else. And so we've certainly done some of that. But what I would say is, we're still kind of figuring it out, and I'm trying to go up the chain too, because I think we did a little bit too many small acquisitions. And so it's kind of a little bit spread, but our current working thesis is that it can and will continue to be its own site if it has a specific demographic and specific type of content that it's writing for that site, right? So the book designer is all about helping like DIY self-publishing, which is actually a lot of that content we don't cover on self-publishing school, like the formatting and we just like hire a formatter, right? Or or hire a cover designer. Whereas, this gets really into the nitty gritty. The Right Life, more for freelance writing and that sort of thing. And so there's, when there's a unique person that they're writing to, unique content strategy, all that, it's like, okay, this can exist as its own. Now it makes it a little bit more complicated to juggle all this stuff, which is kind of what we're figuring out now, which is, okay, do you have one person that runs all content? You have a content manager per site. What's the threshold at which that makes sense? Like, how do you get all these to kind of play nicely together? And that's the part that's, we're as one of our core values is fail fast, fail forward, fail often. So we are failing fast, forward, and often on all fronts. But we're trying to figure it out in a way that will be most helpful to all the folks who land on these sites.
You've downplayed it nicely, but I mean, the way you describe it makes perfect sense. I'm looking at again, I just pulled up selfpublishing.com. It's a beautiful site. The way you described the designer site, the way you described the freelance writer site, like it all makes a lot of sense to me. So I was just curious. I don't think there necessarily is a clear, cut and dry, black and white right way to do it. So that's why I wanted to ask the question, because your insights are unique to your space, but we can all learn from that, especially as a lot of people are doing this type of strategy with their websites these days.
No doubt.
So let's talk about the book Publish, and please share where people can find the book. Share Self-Publishing School. Just how can people keep up with you if they want to learn more about some of these topics about writing a book? Where is best to direct them?
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for asking. So I've got two resources that might be helpful for folks. So first and foremost, the book that I talk about Published, or that I've been talking about. So this is my brand new book, just came out. It's Published: The Proven Path from Blank Page to 10,000 Copies Sold. You can get it on Amazon. You can also get the audiobook. I recommend the audiobook. I narrate the audiobook, so you can get that on Audible. But if you'd like a physical copy and you're one of the first 50 people, I'd like to give away 50 copies to the Niche Pursuits audience. So if you go to publishedbook.com/niche, right? Published book, like I published a book. So publishedbook.com/niche. If you're one of the first 50 people there, I will literally print, pack, and ship a physical copy of the book. No shipping and handling, no nothing. All you have to do is just tell me where to send it. And so that's the first place that would be best to go if you want to grab a free copy of the book. And then the second piece, if you're interested in learning more about Self-Publishing School, go to self-publishingschool.com/apply. That's where you can book a call with my team. We can chat about your book, your goals, start putting together a plan. And then if you're a fit, we can talk about what it looks like to work together. So those are kind of the two best places: publishedbook.com/niche if you'd like a free copy of the book, and then self-publishingschool.com/apply if you're interested in booking a call with a team.
I'm guessing those 50 are going to go relatively fast. I'm lucky. I think I'm going to be the first one to apply. I'll get in before this goes live.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Should people do that mind map exercise before they go over to the self-publishschool.com, self-publishschool.com, or should they just go over there and learn all the information they need?
Yeah, I mean, you can go book a call with a team, and then between now and when your call happens, just scribble the mind map, and that'll be a good starting point to then have that conversation where you map out, hey, where am I going with this book? What are my goals, and how do I put together a plan and get started?
Well, you've really got my head spinning a bit in terms of thinking about my own personal sites. I also run a marketing agency. You've got my head thinking about the value a book could provide just in terms of adding authority.
Yes.
I think I'm going to always remember, and we talk about authority in SEO all the time, but I've never heard it mentioned authority with the word author at the root of it. I love that too. So those are just a couple of things I took from the day. Really appreciate you coming on, and maybe we'll bring you up in 5 more years for a third visit on the Niche Pursuits podcast.
I appreciate it, Jaron. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. All right. Cheers.